Okay. Uh, Still thinking this is hell. Somewhere during the night, I came to this realization that if I just shut up, that I could actually relax, and did, and then relax some more, and then relaxed my whole spiritual real view to the point where I was temporarily on the side of Satan. I was thinking, I probably should give up the stance. And then I got super, super paranoid at a point where I just kind of let go of everything. I just kind of let go of all concern, which is dangerous. And I'm back to kind of where I was yesterday. I really get the feeling that uh, I cannot back down. I gotta keep my resolve and keep pushing forward despite what I think is the truth or what's the fiction. Because I don't know the outcome of the future. And though in all the news and what people are talking about, I'm agreeing. I see it as truth that I'm not interacting with anybody, and nobody's interacting with me. And I'm trying to make sense of that. I'm trying to make positive sense of it. I'm trying to be optimistic. Despite I'm getting this effect, this hopeful effect, and this is really kind of where I stand, is that I'm getting I'm getting the Job treatment. If you are familiar with Job in the Bible, I'm getting the Job treatment right now. And Satan's super on my tail saying, just go and rebuke, just turn on God and rebel, please. I mean, he's just doing that constant. He's like, rebel, 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 rebel. And I'm like, no, 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 no. Why should I trust you, motherfucker? Because you're the start of all this. And he has the same sin I have, ego. That's what started it all, was ego. I'm bigger than God. That's how the whole thing started. If you're into the Bible and you believe this stuff, that's how the whole thing started. And that's, if he can get you on that, if he can get you fully into that and lose your consciousness, conscience, not consciousness, conscience, the tug of war battle that's going in you between the spiritual war that's actually inside you. It's not really outside, it's inside you. And it's also kind of on outside. This idea that you can really relinquish your inhibition, and they'll treat you nice. No, they're not. They're going to torture you if they really can. So, did you see that synthesizer thing that just popped up there? That was interesting. Dumb things you believe in synths or something. I want to see what that was about. If that was a comment to me or just an article. I love that. You know, I love reading stuff, really short stuff. I don't read books. I, at best, listen to audibles, but I never get through them. I get to a point and I just lose complete interest because I kind of feel like I'm not doing anything. I'm not being productive. I mean, those documentaries have to be damn good and a heck of a lot more potent than what I'm giving. If I've got any kind of viewership of this content, it's because somehow I'm constantly changing and keeping you distracted, not for a negative reason, but trying to just give you lots and lots of information so you can have a choice of what it is you want to pursue in what I'm saying to determine if it's true or not, because I don't research. My research comes from the documentaries that I absorb and assimilate. That's the only research I've got, and it's so sketchy because if I really was to go out and do the footnotes and give you the citations, I would pretty much get fucking bored. And so for me, I'm really aiming for a small sliver of you guys, which is basically the the long attention span, passive filter feeders. You know, the coral reef, the guys that are sitting there pulling stuff out of the water as it's coming by and making use of it. I'm not after that audience that wants quick information, quick um, uh, instant gratification. I'm not after that crowd. Mainly because you can gain it as the loyalty of it is can practically evaporate overnight if you make one big flaw. Just as such a thing happens to celebrities, you know, just look at Andrew Dice Clay. That comedian overnight completely lost all loyalty in his fan base. That happens to lots of celebrities, and I don't know of any really good ones to point out, but it does happen. And so it's best if your fan base grows slowly than if it grows fast. Because if it grows fast, and I don't know if this is fast or slow, but if it grows fast, it's going to evaporate just as fast because they haven't developed a, a amount of trust in what you have to say. They're not going to fault you for one grave error or one misspelling or something that just ticks them off. I'm not going to monetize this because I am not convinced that advertisements actually make any money. Though all these guys, there was this guy, I was looking at his YouTube and he made a big deal that he was making $1,000 a day, and his subscribership is 250,000 people, and he's got a Patreon, and I'm just like, well, yeah, maybe that's true, but what if the fuck are you doing with $1,000 a day that could be any benefit to the world? It's good. It's 32,000. Let's see, 32,000, 300,000, 400,000. You're just making about 4 times as much as a lawyer, or I mean, the lowest end paid lawyer. High end lawyers can make 200,000, 300,000 a year. That's pretty good, dude. But I mean, that's a full time job. I mean, he's probably a savant, but that's a full time job and pulling in the information. Um, I can't do that because of the feed of money that I've decided is enough for me, because it really is. It's somewhere between poverty wage, or actually living wage, and a small family of living wage, and for me that's enough. If I can throw in a 401k and get some return on it, hopefully all the all the plans, all the things that got invested in my 401k or whatever, all these companies don't all go under at the same time, because it can turn into negative wealth, or a negative return, which means you actually put money into it. That's why stock market is really kind of dangerous is because if all the companies fall under and you've got stock, you owe money rather than you get money because you've got partial ownership of that company, and now it's taking on cost, it's taking on debt, and it's having to pay somebody back, and they're going to suck you in with that. It happens, and that's the danger of. However, if you the one thing that doesn't work that way, or not, I mean that actually has a future and you don't take in the cost is land investments. It's land investments is really good, and I would suggest if you can find some land in New Mexico, where I'm from, that would be a really good investment because there is some really good land in New Mexico. And one of the big advantages of New Mexico is that because of its dry climate, it's great for archival, and a good bit of what rich people spend their time on is the archival of documents and history and stuff. That this is what Jamie Johnson's father spends most of his time on, is archival, make painting stuff, and it's a hobby because nobody else can do it, spend the time to do it, have the money to do it, collecting art, collecting important documents, re, maintaining them, having a potentially really dry jewel box where they can stick the stuff so that it doesn't deteriorate super fast like it would in a humid environment like Texas, which is not a good place to do that kind of archival. And even better than that is to archive in a salt mine, which they do have in New Mexico. They have big old salt mines. You know what those salt mines are being used by the government for? The storage of nuclear waste. I mean, pretty much their salt mines are really good for pretty much the archival and storage, and really just protecting the environment from a lot of crap that could really end up screwing us over. So my home state of New Mexico, and it is a fantastic, though there are people that piss on Albuquerque. What's his name? The guy that was in Real Genius, who just lost his larynx, or lost his voice box. Val Kilmer. Val Kilmer, and he wears like all this turquoise jewelry and stuff. He is a New Mexico resident. He was a New Mexico resident. I don't know if he is anymore. But I remember him saying that Santa Fe to him was such a spiritual place that he just could not imagine living anywhere else. That it was like there's a place in Europe and Santa Fe, and to him Santa Fe was a very deeply spiritual, and I agree with him. I love Santa Fe. It's 30,000. It's quite a small town, but it's full of artists. It's full of creative types and scientists. I mean, that's very rare that you have that combination. Berkeley might have that. San Francisco might have that. Austin might have that. Actually, Austin isn't. It has technology, not really scientists, technology, creative types, good food, and politics. Renaissance cities are great places to live because there's going to be a good amount of activism, and these activists are really pushing for improving everything. And you're going to take a walk into the park and get a better feeling of what's going on, a positive feeling, hopefully. It's not like a walk in the park in Dallas or in, God forbid, South Lake. Um, there are a lot of people that love South Lake. I hate South Lake. Super affluent people, lots and lots of shops, very little, very little amount of what I would call creative architecture. Um, their big thing is red brick buildings. In Santa Fe, it's adobe. I prefer the aesthetics of adobe to any red brick building any day of the week. Even if a red brick building might withstand the effects of to being burned, to actually spreading fire. It's not the only place in the world where red brick buildings make sense for me. I think is in Boston. I'm I'm not really sure if that is the aesthetic there, but that's imagined to be what it is. Um, is it really orange bricks? And I'm not really I'm not really um that I'm not really that versed in what Carroll is, what South Lake is. So I'm not a really big fan of the Dragons. Every single affluent individual in South Lake and Carroll and all that uh, Trophy Club, kind of, they're all like really into the Dragons, the Carroll um, football team, is it? Yeah. It kind of reminds me of my hometown, Los Alamos, and the Los Alamos High School there. But I actually prefer the Los Alamos High School because what is Los Alamos? It is a major science, a governmental science laboratory, and the people in the kids in those that show up in that high school, even though it could be highly political and stuff, they're really super smart kids, and they can very easily get into any college and jump into any kind of scientific institution. All you simply have to say is, I come from Los Alamos, and that might get you in. But for everybody else in New Mexico, they gerrymandered Los Alamos into Santa Fe. Was it Santa Fe, Pewaukee, Taos? No, Santa Fe, Espanola, Taos, or something. They gerrymandered it because they knew that all these white rich people up in Los Alamos was going to pretty much own New Mexico, and they wanted to keep New Mexico liberal, not conservative like Texas. And there really is that not that many cities in New Mexico, and northern New Mexico is pretty much occupied by the lowest income bracket of anybody in the United States. It's great for what we were trying to do with my boss, and that was a proof of concept of a peer to peer medical bioinformatics um, correlation system that doesn't use a master patient record but uses actual bioinformatics about people to correlate their records cradle to grave. Talk to anybody in the medical area about that, and they'll say you've got to be insane. No, we were working on it 20 years ago. We didn't really get anywhere with it because the people that were funding us were these Indians that got like $5 million and only gave us about $200,000, and we couldn't fund the number of people. And whenever you're in New Mexico and you're trying to get funding, you're going to undercut everybody. Most of the people working for you are working on they're working on, what is it, in kind. You get tax breaks and in kind, but you're not employed. You don't get health care insurance. You have to pay for your own health care. I was on that. I had NM chip 200, but the insurance is so much cheaper. Health insurance is so much cheaper in New Mexico than it is Texas. However, right now my health insurance dropped down to 200,000. Is I've never had that experience in the past. Texas was about $500,000 for health insurance if you were to buy it yourself. So it's in your best interest to get employed with a grocery store or something because Kroger has pretty good health care if you can get on it. They also have 401k. They also, if you're looking to educate yourself, they have free associate's degrees. I mean, that's like getting into tech school, and it's a pathway up the chain and getting paid better. And not a lot of those Kroger employees really know what that means to get an associate's degree. It's a step up, not a big step up. It's a step up. So anyhow, by the way, Kroger, even though it's 100 billion a year GDP or something like that, and Amazon's 300 and Walmart is like 500. Walmart Sam's is like 500. It took Kroger like 100 years to get to that point, but Amazon and Walmart, their profit margin is fairly small. Kroger's is like 70% profit margin. So you actually get a better return on your investment to invest in Kroger. So do it. However, the creditors in Kroger are just super, super stingy, greedy motherfuckers who are just trying to figure out some way to take from the employees, and Kroger is unionized. Amazon is anti-union, so is Walmart. Kroger is unionized. And practically the whole country of Germany is unionized, but can you explain how Germany owns so much of our businesses over here? And they give their employees 6 weeks paid vacation? And you think this is a great country? I have a friend living in Germany who's the son of the guy who came up with the battery pack for the Voyager satellite. And his son is living in Germany, he grew up in Los Alamos, trumpet player, ended up going over there with his wife. She was a celloist, he was a trumpet player, or a French horn player. Ends up becoming part of the banking system over there, making fantastic money, 6 weeks paid vacation, and is just super. He turns from being an American to becoming a super righteous European liberal type who's eager to just completely piss on America at any point. I like him. I love him. He's a great guy, in person, but in his social media, he's ready to piss on America at any amount because he's completely changed to being a German. So anyhow,